Let's talk about SoundExchange because I guarantee you, if you're an artist or producer and you haven't registered, you're leaving money on the table. Real money. Just sitting there with your name on it. And I've had other lawyers ask me to explain this to them, so I know how this can be confusing for you, but it's very straightforward. Here's what SoundExchange actually is. It's a nonprofit collective that collects and distributes digital performance royalties. These royalties are generated when your music is played on digital platforms like SiriusXM, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and internet radio stations. This is separate from the streaming royalties that you get from Spotify or Apple Music. This is a completely different income stream. And if you're not registered, you're not getting paid. So why does all of this matter? So look, this is how it goes. When your song is played on terrestrial radio, like regular AM, FM radio stations, the songwriter and the publisher get paid performance royalties through ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. But the artist and the label, they get nothing from terrestrial radio in the US, and that's just how it works. However, when your song is played on digital radio or non interactive streaming platforms, both the sound recording and the composition generate royalties. And SoundExchange collects the sound recording side of that. By law, 45% goes to the featured artist and 50% goes to the sound recording copyright owner. That's usually like the label. And then there's still 5% that goes to non featured performers and session musicians. So now, if you're signed to a label, they're collecting 50%, they're 50%. But your 45% as the featured artist, that only comes to you if you're registered with SoundExchange. If you're not registered, then that money just sits in their system and they hold it for 3 years. If you don't claim it, it goes back into a pool and gets redistributed to other registered artists because you literally forfeited money that you earned because you didn't fill out a form. And this applies to producers too. If you're a non-featured performer, meaning that you produced on the track, you played on it, you engineered it, you're also entitled to a share of that 5% set aside for session players and non-featured contributors. But again, only if you're registered. Most producers have no idea that this money even exists. They think they only get paid from their producer fee or the points on the master. But if your work is getting played on digital radio, you have another revenue stream through SoundExchange. You just have to claim it. So here's the part that frustrates me. Registering is free. It takes 10 minutes. You just go to soundexchange.com, you create an account, you verify your identity, and then you're done. And that's it. Once you're registered, SoundExchange starts paying you quarterly, direct deposit. There's no middleman, no commission. This money is legally yours. And the only thing that's standing between you and getting paid is filling out a form. Let's talk about why this is especially important if you're independent. If you own your master, you're getting both the 50% that would normally go to the label and your 45% as the featured artist. That's 95% of the total payout. If you're releasing music independently and you're not registered with SoundExchange, you're walking away from nearly the entire payment. And that's not smart. It's bad business. And then for international artists, this is even more critical. If you're based outside of the US and your music is playing on US digital radio, SoundExchange collects those royalties, but can only pay you if you're registered. A lot of international artists assume that their local collection society handles this, and in some cases they do. But in many cases, you'll need to register directly with SoundExchange to make sure that you're getting everything that you're owed. So here's what you need to do. Of course, register with SoundExchange immediately. If you're an artist, producer, a session musician, anyone who's contributed to a sound recording that's getting played on digital platforms, you need to be in their system. Two, you need to make sure that your metadata is correct. When you register, you're providing information about the recordings that you've worked on. If your metadata does not match what the platforms are reporting, you just won't get paid. So double check your release information, your legal name, your IBN number, if you have one. All of it needs to be very accurate. Three, if you're a producer or a session player, document everything. Keep records of every project that you've worked on. SoundExchange gets pays out based on credits. So if you're not listed in the metadata when the track is being distributed, you're not getting paid. So make sure that you're credited properly on every single release. Four, check if you have unclaimed royalties. SoundExchange has this really cool tool on their website where you could search for unpaid royalties under your name. So if you've been releasing music for years and you've never registered for SoundExchange, there's a good chance that you have money waiting for you. So go and look, go check it out. And five, if you're signed to a label, make sure that your agreement addresses sound exchange royalties. Some deals try to claim the artist 45% of the overall royalty pool, but that's not how it's supposed to work. Sound exchange designates that money specifically for the featured artist, so make sure that your recording agreement respects that. Here's the bottom line. Sound exchange royalties are not optional income. This is money that is legally designated for you by statute. It's not up to the label, it's not up to the platform, it's yours, but you only have to claim it. And every day that you're not registered is a day that you're working for free. So if you're a producer, if you're an artist, if you've ever touched a record that's being played on digital radio, register right now. And this is exactly why it's important that you retain an attorney who actually knows this stuff and can advise you properly. Don't be afraid to ask your lawyer questions. If they can't explain sound exchange, PROs, mechanical royalties, and how these income streams work, you probably need a different lawyer. So, because leaving money on the table can never be part of the strategy, it's just a mistake.